Hi, my name is Paige Panzarello. I'm known as the cash flow chick. And I have been a real estate investor for over 20 years. I started out kind of by default. I was not, real estate chose me. I did not seek real estate. I inherited some property that was seriously in debt. And with the help of family and friends and people that were in the community, I was able to ask questions, and I was able to turn that back around, that estate back around into the positive. And I realized that I had a passion for it. I really enjoyed it. I started out in buy and hold, and I have kind of grown from there. I owned my own construction company. I had 36 employees. We held all of our licenses. And we went, really far, really fast. We were building, in the early 2000s. And of course, 2005, 2006, we were just going gangbusters. And then 2007 happened. And that crash literally landed on my head. And I know that's not unique to me. There were a lot of other people that suffered in 2007, 2008. And it really took me down. I was very, very fortunate that I had lots of liquidity. I had lots of assets, and I had to fire sale them to be able to pay everybody that I owed money to. And fortunately, the people that owed me money, couldn't pay because their lending froze up. And so I fire sold everything. I paid everybody off that I owed money, and I walked away having lost $20 million. And I tell that story because it really shaped me as an investor. So clearly, I walked away from real estate investing for a little while. I had to lick some wounds, of course. And then when I came back in, I just decided that this was my passion. I was good at it, and I wanted to help people that had life happen to them the way that life had just happened to me. So I came back in and I had to build myself back up. And I was doing some fixing and flipping, because that was very natural for me. But it just didn't quite feel like home. And so when I discovered non-performing notes, literally angels sang for me. So most of my portfolio invests in first position non-performing notes secured by real estate. And I'm in a really unique position where I get to do a couple things that I love. Number one is real estate, but more than that, I get to help people and I get to make money doing it. So that's kind of what brought me here to this point. And I just love what I do every single day. I was just kind of winging it. I had some joint venture partners, but I felt very exposed. I was fixing and flipping initially just to build back up some of my capital. But I felt a tremendous sense of exposure, not just for myself, but also for my joint venture partners. And so I was really looking for an avenue to take to offer and afford a lot more protection. And I saw you, Scott, on I think it was a webinar, and I said, "Oh my gosh!" And I literally sent a text or made a call that day, one of the two, and I reached out immediately, and I was excited to actually meet you and have you help me. At every point in a real estate investor's life, you cap out in a certain with your own funds. And so you seek to bring other people in and utilize their capital and offer them an opportunity to create better returns for themselves as well. And one of the problems that I was facing is that I just wanted to make sure that I was protecting them and I was protecting myself and I was protecting the asset as well. There was a lot of exposure. To me, there was a great deal of risk. In terms of fixing and flipping, to me, now knowing notes, I didn't know it at the time, but it seemed a little riskier to me. And so I really wanted to limit the exposure. And so, coming into the note space and working with several different joint venture partners. We were all working under, different operating agreements. There were different positions. And so there was a lot of kind of question marks of am I going to be able to protect them and protect me at the same time? An S corporation, of course, and there was all kinds of different entity formations that were out there that offer a variety of different um, benefits, right? But it just didn't seem like there were all in one package until I discovered you, Scott, and the Delaware Statutory Trust. That really was something that I just immediately was intrigued, and the more I looked at it and more I learned about it, the more it solved all the problems. Meaning, it limits my exposure for my investors. It insulates the assets that we were acquiring. It really offers that extra layer of protection, for them, for me, for the asset itself, and it's flexible. That was a huge thing, is that there's a lot of flexibility there, and it's consistent. So it just solved all those problems for me that that I was searching for to have solved. We don't have time for all of the ways. But I was really able to scale. That was a big concern of mine as well. How do I scale without having a bazillion different LLCs or entities that I was going to have to pay, regardless of where they were set up, Nevada, Wyoming, Delaware, it doesn't matter. California, because I'm in California, wants their little chunk, right? So the California Franchise Tax Board will charge you, regardless of whether you're doing business in California or not, an $800 per entity fee. And that becomes really cost prohibitive for me and my business to be able to scale. And so when I got to you and Royal Legal Solutions and we set up the Delaware Statutory Trust, it just allowed me to scale 10x. I mean, and the beauty part is that we're not subject, because the way that it's set up, we're not subject to that $800 per entity tax fee that California charges. And that was a huge thing for me. Huge thing for me. Ease. There's in all honesty, our most valuable asset is our time, and working with Royal Legal Solutions has allowed me to that peace of mind, number one. Number two, to really consolidate my time. It's very consistent. There's no question marks, and I feel completely protected, and I'm not running around wasting a bunch of time, because I know exactly how to function, how to perform. And that was all because of your direction, Scott. Oh my gosh. It was a webinar. I don't remember which webinar, but I watched it twice. And it just, everything that you were saying just resonated with me. It just made sense for my type of investing. And frankly, I've learned, at the time I thought, oh, this is going to fit perfectly for note investors and working with multiple different joint venture partners. But I didn't realize that even if you're in buy and hold situations, because we're in a very litigious society, and people sue anybody for anything. And if you've got a large rental portfolio, there's exposure there. And so I've realized that the Delaware Statutory Trust allows for you to put those assets and insulate them such that if there ever is, God forbid, a lawsuit, really whoever is suing can really only go after that asset or whatever asset is in that protective series of the main Delaware Statutory Trust. So it's just opened my world completely, no matter what type of investing I do. And it offers such an amazing level of protection and peace of mind, at least in my opinion. Oh, well, this is a sort of a specified niche. A lot of people don't know how to properly set up a Delaware Statutory Trust. And I felt really comfortable with you, Scott, and your team, that you knew exactly what I needed to accomplish, and you just put that in place. And so I just, pulled the trigger and went with you. And as you know, I've referred plenty of people your way because I'm that confident in you and your team. Again, you're covering all of my needs. So as an investor, as someone who has had the exposure that I've had in the past, with the crash, I can't really pinpoint one. Honestly, it's the whole package. It's not just the Delaware Statutory Trust. I know that, at the time, you hadn't. I've grown with you, right? At the time, I don't believe you were doing some entity formations either. But I was already set in that regard, so we wouldn't have discussed that. But I do know that you are kind of a one-stop shop. You do other entity formations as well. You do estate planning. So you can, you sit down and you sat down with me and we went over, okay, this is where I'm looking to go. How do I scale and how do I protect myself doing that? And what entity structures do I need to have in place to accomplish that goal? And so, I'm really pleased that you are a one-stop shop. You absolutely cover all the bases and are in a position to help people get to where they want to go as well. I've already referred you to so many people, and I know that they've been thrilled with their formation. That you've helped people form entities outside of the DST. You've helped them with that, so of course, I'm going to continue to do so. As somebody who is and I don't want to say a risk taker. I used to be a risk taker in my younger years. But as somebody who has gone through the paces, if you let fear paralyze you, you will never get to where you want to be. You will never protect your family. You will never build a legacy. You'll never do the things that you want and desire to do if you allow fear to stop you. So I often speak about, don't let that analysis paralysis or that fear stop you from going forward and setting things up. It's never too late or too soon to start protecting yourself and your family and get you where you want to go.